When I was a newly ordained priest, I joined our usual Vincentian summer mission in Nueva Ecija. And after our daily 6 p.m. Mass, in the chapel, in that small barrio, there was a tricycle waiting for me outside the chapel. And the coordinator approached me and said, "Father, can you hear confession and bless a house?" And I said, "Confession and house blessing on an evening?" I said, "This is my first time to do this." And she said, "Oh, Father, it's okay if you're tired and you want to do it some other time. It just so happened that the person who'd like to confess and have her house blessed works in the market, and she would usually leave the house very early and go home at night." So I said, "Okay, let's go anyways." But before going there, the coordinator said, "You know, Father, because her husband passed away 3 years already, and she could not accept it. She would always pray that she would see her husband and be with her husband, up to this point that some of her housemates, people from her household, starts to feel something different, eerie in their house, and they're afraid. So they're asking for you, besides the confession, to also bless the house." So I said, "Okay, I'll go with you." But while I was inside the tricycle, as I would normally do, I started to entrust myself to Our Lady. I said the act of consecration, the entrustment to Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, and the prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel. When I reached the house of this lady, she was there, we had a confession. Actually, it's more of counseling. And I blessed the house. I did not feel anything weird. I did not get scared. Then we finished everything. I went home to my foster family, and after dinner, I went to the fields because we are having a youth recollection. We had a bonfire in the middle of the rice fields, and while we had the bonfire, the youth were gathered around. They were singing some worship songs, and we had a Bible sharing. And while they were doing that, there were two of us priests on the opposite ends of the field, seated on monoblock chairs. But since it was very hot, it's very hot in Nueva Ecija even at night, we did not wear our sotan anymore. We just had our normal clothes, and we wore the violet stole for confession. So we went on with the recollection and confession. The following day, I had a friend who had a gift. I don't know if that's what they call clairvoyant or something. And he assists, he helps an exorcist, a Salesian exorcist from Mary Help. He called me up. He didn't know where I was. He didn't know what I was doing. But he called me up the following day, and he said, "Father, last night, were you in the midst of a field hearing confession?" I said, "Yes." "You were seated on monoblock chairs?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You did not wear your sotan, you just wear the stole?" "Yes," I said. And then he said, "The third person who confessed to you was a guy?" I said, "Mabuti ka pa, naalala mo ako, hindi ko maalala." And they said, "How come you know what I was doing?" He said, "Last night, Father, I was assisting an exorcist to bless a convent. And my assignment with the exorcist is to put 3 crosses on all the doors of the house, of the convent." And he said, their door is varnished, very shiny. He said, "When I put 3 crosses on one door," he said, "the door had moist, and I saw you. I saw what you were doing." And I told that exorcist priest what I saw. He said, "You ask your friend to pray for you, and you pray for him." And he said, "Father, for 3 times, the exorcist prayed for you in Latin, 3 times. And I remembered when I was hearing confessions, 3 times we got interrupted because somebody would pass by on our side, or there will be somebody who was very noisy on the other side. And the 3rd time, I was so pissed off and tempted to stop the confession. I was so annoyed with all the distractions. But anyways, I kept going. The exorcist said, "The devil doesn't want the confession to push through." And true enough, I was so glad that I pushed through I finished the confession, because the quality of the confession of these young people You know, they're very sincere. Some were even crying. They're very sorry for their sins. Their last confession was still during their first communion. So I was very glad that I finished and heard all of their confessions. But then this friend of mine said, "But you know what, Father, I noticed something." He said, "Beside you, while you were hearing confessions, there was a small light." And I told that to the exorcist priest, and he said, "Don't worry about your priest friend. The light that you saw beside him, it's Our Lady. She's with him." And true enough, all throughout my life, I've always felt the Blessed Mother with me, guiding me, protecting me. "I will put enmity between you and the woman. She will crush your head." On this first Saturday of this Vincentian month of September, I would like to focus my reflection on Saint Vincent de Paul's devotion to Mary. Saint Vincent may not be a die-hard Marian saint because he was very careful not to commit the excesses in Marian devotion during his time. But Mary had a special place in the life of Vincent de Paul. In all the congregations and organizations that he established, Vincent always sought the protection of the Mother of God, consecrating them under her care. The following prayer is an example of Vincent de Paul's act of entrustment to Mary. He said, "O Holy Virgin, Blessed Mother of Mercy, we have always called you our Mother. Now we offer to you our community in general and each of its members in particular. We beg you to accept this dedication of ourselves and to take us under your special protection because you are the channel of God's mercy. Be our example and our guide so that we may remain faithful to our promise to give ourselves unreservedly to your Son and to you for the rest of our lives." I'd like you to focus on that line. Now we offer to you our community in general and each of its members in particular. Many years later, after the death of Saint Vincent, during the second apparition of Mary to Catherine Labore, Catherine sees Mary holding a globe with her eyes gazing in the heavens in prayer. Mary told Catherine, "This globe represents the whole world and each one of you in particular." When we seek Mary's intercession, when we seek Mary's help, when we seek the prayers of Mary for us, Mary listens, Mary remembers, Mary prays for our intentions, Mary presents them to Jesus, her Son, who is the source of all graces and blessings. When we entrust ourselves to Mary, Mary makes sure that we are closest to her Son. She walks with us and teaches us how to be faithful follower of her Son. She shows us how to be a good Christian by being compassionate and caring and loving of our fellow pilgrims who strive to follow Jesus. In the Gospel today, the Pharisees questions the behavior of the disciples of Jesus on a Sabbath. But Jesus instead reminded them of that incident when David and his companions ate the bread of the offering which they were not supposed to eat. More than that, Jesus reminded them of the true purpose of Sabbath, which is first and foremost to save life, to promote life, and not to destroy it. The true spirit behind the laws is to promote the well-being of the people and not to burden and enslave them. This is also the challenge of the gospel for each of us, to be followers of Jesus who are life-giving, Christians who give hope to those who have none, fellow pilgrims who also look after the welfare of others, especially the weak, the lost, and the poor. These are the qualities that Vincent de Paul saw in Mary that he emulated. This made him convinced that Mary does not hinder our relationship to Jesus. Rather, Vincent saw Mary as a perfect example of a faithful follower of Christ. Like Mary, are we also sensitive to the needs of others? Do we remember to look after the needs of those who have nothing and no one? Are we life-giving to those whom we encounter in this journey? Friends, like St. Vincent de Paul, let us have recourse to Mary and entrust ourselves to her. She will always remember you. She will always look after you. Above all, she will lead you closest to Jesus, her Son. With St. Vincent, let us together pray and say to her, O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us, have recourse to you.